It's Konflikt 47 week, and we have 3 amazing starter sets to be won. We will choose 3 winners, one from the comments on our YouTube videos, one from the comments on OnTableTop.com, and one from our Cult of Games members, so you guys get an extra chance to win.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm joined by Jon Heeney from Warlord Games, lead in Konflikt 47, miniatures design. Is that fair to say?
One of the steering hands in Konflikt, definitely, yeah.
Before we get into Konflikt, which obviously is a big part of this week, I thought it'd be interesting to find out a bit about you and how you came to be in the miniature design game. So how did it start for you? Was this something you always wanted to get into, or did you sort of segue in via the hobby like many people?
Long ago, when I was small, young, and at university, I actually wanted to get into games, concept art, stuff like that. I did a little bit of freelance. It didn't go well. Then I started doing CAD drawings, CNC stuff, for like furniture designs, upholstery patterns, stuff like that. I left that. Just happened to move to Nottingham and join a company called Warlord, which I'd never heard of before because I wasn't a huge wargamer. Started in on the secret project of Siocast at the time. Figured these machines these are pretty interesting, so I invested in the company. And now I'm in the studio because apparently if you can design sofa frames, you can design tanks.
I mean, it's all straight lines and curves.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
It's fascinating.
Much more interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating reading somebody who's come from a purely design point of view rather than coming up via the hobby, because so often when I talk to people, I was a gamer and then I started playing around with patties and green stuff and ... miniature design.
Oh God, I've tried green stuff and not my gig at all.
Purely in the digital world. Do you still use
absolutely.
the same tools then that you were using with the CAD design for that style of thing?
It's not exactly the same package, but it does a lot of the same stuff. So at the minute I use a program called Plasticity, which is a really they market it as CAD for artists, really simple, basic CAD package. But the stuff I used before was Rhino, AutoCAD, I can't even remember the name of the CNC programs. They're all very dry. Lots of blue lines on black screens.
It's one way of doing it, certainly. So when you were at university, then you were getting into the sort of the design aesthetic there. I take it there was a lot of illustration and the like.
Yeah. Well, my dream job at that point was definitely concept art, or maybe even illustration if I got good enough. I don't think I ever really got good enough, but I can get enough on paper to be able to do a brief, or at least give people an idea of where to go. So, yeah. No, sad. Shed a tear for my concept art career.
Because, I mean, a lot of people, when they think of concept art, they'll be thinking of likes of Ralph McQuarrie, doing the big stuff for sci-fi in the 70s and that sort of thing. But concept art can also be designing the bottle that shampoo comes in. Was it purely the mechanical side of concept art, or were you looking at more the aesthetic?
It was both. No, it was both. My course, my tutor, we didn't always get on, but he was very good. Very good at what he did. So we covered games, we covered product design. At one point, one of our briefs was basically headphone packet, like how to concept them and design them. But no, we covered a bit of everything. But obviously, the gaming side of it was much more interesting. However, he did, say people like Ian McCaig and all that. These are your competition, so give it your all, or don't step up. And it was tough.
So when you came to Warlord, then how did the approach go? Were you initially given a small project to do? Was it a specific thing, or were you helping out in I know you mentioned SEOcast. Was it purely in and around there?
I'll give you the whole story.
Yeah.
When I initially started here, it was only meant to be a stepping stone. Like I say, I'd never heard of Warlord. I wasn't particularly a big wargamer.
Mm-hmm.
It was just so I could move to Nottingham and be able to afford paying towards the flat.
Mm-hmm.
I found the SEOcast stuff interesting, so I asked, can I be part of this? And I started making molds for the SEOcast machine. And then I sort of segued into like team leader roles and stuff like that. And I think the real big push was when I worked at Next, we had a process for design for manufacture where we'd look at that's really dry and boring, but we'd look at the entire range and figure out if we had 3,000 parts, how can we split these parts? What parts are shared between different products, stuff like that. I started the ball rolling on introducing that here at Warlord in more of an abstract way, making sure things sound really easy, but making sure things work before it goes to production. And that sort of developed into me talking to the sculptors, having them make edits. And then somebody here discovered, Jon can draw. I'm going to do a few concept sketches for Konflikt, a few field pieces for the presentations. I'll do that. And now here I am.
I mean, it's fascinating. We'll probably come back to the mold part in a little while, because part and parcel of producing things means that you have to be restricted in some way in what you can do physically. But when you're talking about concept art, so this is the sort of thing that you started playing around with then?
Yeah. So this was actually the very, very first set of drawings for the Stahltruppen. One of our guys, Wojtek Fliss, did this. Amazing sculptor. I think this was actually one of the first products in Warlord where we had a drawing first that was approved, and then the sculptor made the drawing. Because normally our sculptors, talented guys, normally they do a lot of the concept work.
Yeah.
Maybe myself included now. But this was one of the first things that sort of everyone around the table, we had a creative group, and almost everyone around the table seemed to be on board with it, and they're like, you know what?
Yeah.
This looks good. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, coming from a company that's mostly known for their historical games, I suppose there's less requirement for a sculptor to have concept art because World War II happened. If they want to
everybody knows what it looks like. Yeah. There's plenty of reference out there.
Because I know
Konflikt's been a new challenge for everyone, I think.
Yeah, Peter was saying, obviously that the whole idea behind this edition, this new launch for Konflikt 47, was to make it less of World War II with a few weird bits added onto it, and to make it something onto itself, which gives a lot more scope for concept and design then.
I mean, you can see here the Stahls have actually, there's a lot of stuff on here the Stahls never ended up getting. Fold down helmets, chainmail.
Yeah, the chainmail.
Tabards might be a bit too too similar to other people, but this was a lot of fun actually. Looking back at it, it's cool.
I even like things like this, and I don't think they're on the final model, but the Tiger style exhausts.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
For the heat extraction.
These were originally going to be much bigger than they are now. These in my head, when we thought about them, were going to be, not that the Stahls can't go toe to toe with tanks in the game, but these were going to be guys, walk up to tanks, rip the turrets off and stuff. So they were going to be a lot bigger, lots more tank-like elements to them. But we ended up sort of not scaling them down, but as we went through the process, this is new for everyone here. They just sort of fell into this role of being the first grade 2 power armor of the game. So they sort of set the standard for power armor to come, which is great.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously they're not a million miles away from those initial concept sketches. Like I say, there's just some small things have changed over time.
Did a fantastic job with them.
Yeah. Obviously, weapon-wise, they have that World War II German aesthetic.
Yeah.
But when you come to concepting certain things that don't exist in reality, how much of a give and take was there? Was it a case of the rules coming down and going, we need ... or were you concepting things going, this looks like an insane looking tank with a weird gun, and then the rules writers going, we could use that?
You've just touched on touched on a point there. We'll come back to, because I can get carried away.
Okay.
And then, hey, we have a new product now instead of what was meant to be originally a redo of an existing product.
Yeah.
No, like I say, it has been pretty tough. It's got a lot better now, because we were still trying to decide the balance of World War II, weird war, sci-fi even. But the styles hit a really good mark. Obviously, one of the key design sort of philosophies I went into was, well, it's World War II and everyone recognizes a style helm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you put a style helm on just about anything, it's probably going to look German.
Yeah.
MG42s, SG44s, they're all very, very iconic shapes. Same as like the, I think it's called the Brodie helmet for the British.
There's
a lot of very key identifiable things from World War II that you can stick on things to make it, drag the design back if it goes too far the other way. And not, to digress slightly here, I still think it's very difficult to make mechs look World War II.
Yeah.
Because I think it's easy to make World War I mechs, as we've seen. I'm sure you're familiar with Scythe.
Yes.
They're clearly World War I, but I know World War II's got a different design language. I don't want to go down that path yet. We'll cover that here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is an interesting one though, because there is a big chunky pair of plastic mechs in the new starter set, and things like the Linebacker in particular is, possibly it's the biggest plastic kit that's been done for Konflikt.
I believe
based
so,
on frames.
That's also my first project I did with Warlord as well.
Right. Oh, this was
technically the Linebacker is my first ever. Yeah, my first ever plastic kit.
So you were saying earlier when you were working with CEOcast and previous jobs, then that you were having to work on that sort of idea of splitting components. Because this ended up, I want to say it's 2 frames. It might be.
It's 3.
3 to 2 and like a half frame.
Yeah.
And you had seen at least 2 big frames. So when you're concepting this and then working on the design, how conscious are you that it has to be physically manufactured, and how much or how many times do you have to go back and go, oh, I really like this, but there's no way we can physically manufacture this particular part?
So I deliberately, and this is something I've tried, our other sculptor, Marco, who does a lot of the concept stuff with me, he did the fireflies in this image actually. I deliberately ignore the manufacturability of it during the concept stage.
Okay.
You've got enough to worry about. I think I'd rather, or my practice philosophy is, I'd rather give the creative guys, the guys who make the choices here, as much stuff as possible. Right, what do you really like? Like, what do we really need to get on this frame? And then they'll decide. And anything else we don't use, well, we can keep for another day. Or if we ever revisit the plastics, update it or something, it can just have more stuff. But I'd rather not have the sculptors worry about that. I'd rather have them focus purely on the creativity, and then have all the dry splits and how we can actually make it work left to, myself now.
Yeah. It's the architects creating castles in the sky and then handing the plans over to some poor engineer and builder on the ground going, I want this. Make this happen.
Except I play both of those roles. So I must just hate myself.
It is a fantastic looking kit. And presumably then this will be a sort of an aesthetic and choice that we'll see more often as Konflikt 47 progresses.
I was actually quite worried about this kit. I mean, looking at it now, next to the fireflies in the ruins, it looks like it belongs, but it was such a departure from anything Warlord's ever made. I mean, I think the closest we've come to something like this is probably the ABC Warriors. They were a side range. But this, it's turned out all right.
But things like the cockpit in particular, it has a feel of potentially something that would be on a World War II fighter or a bomber. There are little here and there are little choices that still tie into that period.
At the very, very start, this began life as a line drawing, and the cockpit was from a think it's a P-51 Mustang.
Right.
It's a really, really small, normally yellow and silver, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this began life as basically a aeroplane fuselage on legs.
I mean,
and then I started jumping more into sort of, I mean, some people might see Apache in that.
Yeah,
there's all sorts in that now.
There's certainly an Apache / Cobra feel. One of our studio painters has put the teeth around the front of the cockpit.
Yes, yeah. I was begging for that to be done the whole time.
Oh, you'll not be disappointed with what John's done with it then.
Well, this feeds into like each one of the nations is going to have very 2 or 3 sort of main identifying traits.
Mm-hmm.
So the Americans have a lot of investment in their aerospace capabilities. So a lot of their, you think of Americans in World War II, you think of Shermans, which are, as much as I love them, they're kind of round, they're a bit dumpy, they're a bit weird. Whereas their aerospace assets are going to be, top of the top. That's where all their high tech stuff goes. And then their other stuff, so like the ground based, like the Grizzly. When you eventually see that, you won't today, but when you eventually see the new Grizzly, that you're going to have high tech, sort of ugly military together.
Yeah.
Same as the Germans. Obviously, you've got the Stahltruppen, the walking tanks. You've got the steel, then you've got the flesh in the form of the Nachthalben, the werewolves, the freaks and monsters.
Yeah.
But each nation's going to have 2 pretty much very identifiable sort of themes running through them that fit with the lore as well, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I suppose, one of the hardest parts when you're essentially developing things from nothing at all is to keep it within a framework that can be realistic and realized. I mean, some things are easier than others. The likes of the simplicity of adding legs to a Panzer IV chassis.
Yeah.
That's quite simplified, or possibly not in the construction, but in the concepting. A walking tank is a tank with legs. That's fine. But were there an awful lot of things that get thrown away? Or I know you said sometimes you come across a few pieces that might be concepted into one thing and then save for something else because they don't quite fit.
Yeah, we'll very rarely. I mean, I've scrapped a few concepts that I've been looking at them and just think this just doesn't work. But as far as I can think off the top of my head, we don't really scrap anything. We keep almost everything because everything will serve a purpose. Like, I mean, the M21 Tesla that's on the Linebacker's arm is the same weapon that's on the Stuart light tank.
Sure.
Because that's actually a key thing I wanted to get across. Like although the scale's a bit strange in Konflikt at the minute, we're still, establishing it, but everything's bigger. But the weaponry is all the same size. Because I don't want, this is identified as, it is the M21 Tesla cannon. So why would it be smaller on the tank?
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't. So when it's on the tank, we've rearranged it so there's bits on the outside. The turret has all these, ugly bolt-ons stuck onto it because this thing's been rammed into a Stuart turret. Yeah. But that's carried all the way through. So, the assault rifles the Stahls are holding are the same ones the Nachthalben are holding. So the Nachthalben can hold them two-handed and they look like a heavy weapon, even though they're not. Weapon scale is something I'm really keen to stay on top of with this.
But even then, I mean, from a historical point of view, that makes sense. There was a Sherman that was used as command and control, and to get all the additional radio gear in, they had to take out all the ammo and the gun. But then to make sure that nobody knew it was the command Sherman, they put just essentially a big wooden pole on the front.
Yeah.
So, I mean, World War II has form for, we need to make this work. The British adaptations of the Sherman as well, to get bigger guns in there and
exactly. What was the Firefly where they turn the gun sideways or something? I think.
Yeah. It's 90 degrees horizontal to where it should be. So it's necessity is the mother of invention, I think, is the phrase.
Yeah. So that's been one of the more fun things for Konflikt, because it's quite easy to make an existing World War II thing that's had all this space tech sort of shoved into it look functional, sort of ugly but cool. Stuff like the Linebacker or some of the mechs we'll look at later today are, completely, these were built in universe. It's kind of tough getting that balance.
Yeah.
Because I'll spend a few hours doing something, look at it and think, that's a science fiction mech. So thankfully there's a few historical guys who sit next to me I'll never thank them for it, but there's a few historical guys just sitting next to me and they're like, John, turn it back a bit.
Down it back. It's not Konflikt 55.
Well,
but even then, I mean, when it comes to finding inspiration, some of the vehicles at the end of World War II were then used in Korea in the 50s. So I suppose by being a nondescript post-war conflict that's just expanded, you've got the remit to push the boundaries in that as well.
There's also, when we do embrace the weirdness, the Soviets, for example, that we've done so far, a lot of the references I've looked at have been Cold War stuff. Because the Soviets in World War II, I mean, the tanks are interesting, but the infantry all kind of look the same. However, they have some weird stuff, like they've got the lobster armor, which I don't know if it was effective. I can't imagine it was. But it looks cool. But yeah, there's a lot of Cold War references for the vehicles and the British infantry. There's lots of sort of like knightly motifs and sort of, which was never in World War II. But as long as it's sort of a consistent message, it fits and it looks pretty good alongside the other units in the range. So there's a bit of flexibility, but yeah, we have to constantly keep guard against going too far, I think.
Yeah, it's good.
Although, saying that, the talk about going too far, I'm sure everyone by now has seen the giant 6-legged plasma ball walker that was on the table.
So, oh yeah, but
yeah,
we'll not worry about that. That's if you're playing weird World War II, then you want to have some weird in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How long was the initial project then to get the Konflikt 47, the new starter set done? So there was Style Troop and the Fireflies, the Linebacker and the Spinner.
I'd have to check, honestly, because we all sort of got lost in our own worlds at that point.
Right.
Like Davide Manna, one of the guys who did a lot of the work on the rulebook. I had almost nothing to do with it. He was just sort of locked in the whole time. But that took, yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to find out, honestly. It was a blur of sort of checkpoints and approvals and stuff. So
yeah, it's been ongoing for a little while.
Yeah.
I don't want to ask how long it takes to sculpt something, because that's the equivalent of how long is a piece of string. But obviously, you're having to work within certain time constraints. So when you're working on something, say an infantry figure or a box set, a squad of them, so you're going to be working on a frame, what's the rough process for that?
Well, like I said, it is a piece of string. But Marco, for example, he generally he can spit out maybe a miniature a day, sort of thing.
Yeah.
28mm guy. Mechs and stuff for me, if I'm left alone, well, my point of pride is the final version of the Linebacker done in about 9.5 hours. So
wow.
Yeah. Never again.
No.
Never going to do that again.
But Scotty would have told you this. How long will it really take, and then how long you tell people it takes. They're two different.
It was exactly one of those.
Yeah.
It's like yeah. But generally, doing everything properly, following, there's a lot of strict processes we have internally, and I have myself. So Marco will, for example, provide a T-pose, so all the figures are like that, and that's when we approve the design. So do we like how it actually looks? If we do, yes, great. We lock the design in, then he poses it. We don't have him sculpting in pose because we need to change. He doesn't sculpt in pose. Because if he has to change something, he has to sculpt it all the way from the start.
Yeah.
And there's an element of sort of digital war dollies at that point. So my stuff, for example, my 3D workspace looks a bit like a garage. When I zoom out, you'll see all the guns lined up. You'll see all these elements down the side. And
obviously, we're seeing Germans and the Americans are sort of front and center, but you have mentioned that there are certain things that are coming down the line for the likes of the Soviets and bits you're working on for the British. So what's the sort of the workflow look like for you for Konflikt 47 going forward? Is there individual months where it's going to be, I need to be working on Americans, and then in 2 months' time we're going to be working on Soviets, or are you sort of intermingling and interspacing as you go?
So that's a very good question. I'm currently, we are currently working on the plastics workflow for the stuff we're going to be releasing next year. obviously we're going to be releasing supplements, and there'll be sort of key plastics that go with those supplements. So the German supplement will come out with some German kits, and then there'll be some support products for the other nations, but that's all still being decided by, Pete, and the higher ups. But yeah, we want it to be like you said, the Germans and the Americans are the flagship at the minute, but we want everyone to have a bit of something. So we'll definitely try to make everything balanced. Be that in the form of even traditional resin wall or resin products as well as plastic. But everyone will be able to have stuff as well.
I've a couple of renders here of big stumpy fellows for a couple of factions. Yep. Do you want to tell us who these are and what sort of things we should be looking out for in the future then?
So this is the Commonwealth Percival, which is it's based on the Tesla Grizzly that I don't think was ever released, except it's been Britishified. So lots of big, ugly bolted armor. You'll notice on his arms, he basically has giant, I think I looked at British torpedoes, but they're basically sort of super Piats.
They did have that Piat look.
Yeah. And see there's two crew cupolas. One of them's replaced by an automated infantry looking sort of lens, which could play into the rules, because the Commonwealth will have a lot of automated systems built into their gear. So yeah, this is a Grizzly with British stuff stuck all over it, and it's fantastic. I actually have it probably won't look too fantastic there, but I have a lovely painted one here.
Delightful.
Yes, very cool. So that's painted by Derek, one of our studio painters that's actually one of my favorite moments when things only look so good as grey renders, but when you see them painted, it's good stuff.
It's a whole other world opens up.
Yep.
And we have another walker, and I'm assuming based on the name that this is possibly something coming out of the East.
Yep. So this is the Soviet medium walker called the Hammer or Molot. This is actually my favorite thing that I've worked on so far. The Soviets have really got to flex. I say not just me, Marco and the other artists really got to flex where we could go with this, because we didn't really like the Soviet aesthetic. Not that we didn't like it, but it didn't feel as lent into as the other nations. So, I mean, you've seen the artwork for the Morris Gull on the rulebook.
Yeah.
Lots of very cool stuff. So this is basically some form of BMP, I think I was looking at. The Soviets have no end of armor you can look at for reference.
Yeah, that is very true.
Yeah, this will be a Soviet medium walker, which I believe moves slowly, but has reinforced armor, so it's a bit of a weird... very cool.
I mean, it sounds Soviet, where their medium is slow and heavily armored, and their heavies are even more ludicrously armored.
It's one of my favorites so far, and again, once Derek's painted it, very cool.
And these give a good indication of where walkers are going to be going in the future for the various nations as well.
Every nation's walker, hopefully, will be very, very unique. So the Russians will be obviously. There's a lot of stereotypes we're playing into because it works. So the Russians are going to be very utilitarian, very functional looking, but they don't have not necessarily the sort of low tech vibe they had from World War II. Because these guys, they know their stuff. These are high tech. The British, lots of big heavy weapon platforms, support weapons, stuff like that. The Americans, the Linebacker, the American Grizzly, which you've not seen yet, but I am slowly falling in love with anti-tank guns that have revolver barrels on the side. So we'll see.
For that old West six-shooter goodness.
Exactly, yeah.
On a walking tank.
The Japanese will be an interesting one. So we have the Scorpion, which has been redone, which is possibly one of the weirdest models. It was another one I was worried about because it's such a departure from anything we do. John Stallard loved it. Great sign. But that's a four-legged walker with two big claws on the front. It's got a tail gun, I was pushing it with that, but everyone seems to like it. But Japanese mechs will be interesting because we've taken a very very power armored samurai kind of feel to the infantry, so the mechs should follow suit.
I was going to say, because we have some Japanese to look at, and the other nations are iterations of what they were wearing in World War II.
Yeah.
The Japanese very much are far more heavily concepted into that idea of samurai in the period.
This is one of the concept pieces that Steph Kopinski did, which absolutely amazing working with him. That was one of those sort of small fanboy moments. But yeah, so this fits into the whole the Japanese sort of seeing the rift as like almost like a manifestation of all their older beliefs. So a lot of like older sort of Shinto stuff that they've returned to the past. Well, you can see a lot of samurai looking style, stuff like that.
Yeah, they've really come through massively on the renders as well.
Yeah, the updated Ghost Warriors. Yeah, Marco Sano, he did a fantastic job with these. But the rifle's mine.
Yeah, they have such an unusual look as well, with almost the diving helm sort of uni.
We absolutely, all of us loved the original designs.
Yeah.
We just wanted to elevate them slightly, just give them a little bit of extra.
Yeah, and I mean, I imagine there'll be quite a lot of people will have seen the cover art for Konflikt, where it's that very stark, just 5 sort of strips of each of the nations/factions, I suppose, because shouldn't really call them nations. Axis is more all-encompassing than just Germany.
Thing, yeah.
Commonwealth likewise runs the gamut. But when you see things like this, it leads me to start thinking what could come in for some of those other nations, and especially with things like the Commonwealth, and you're looking at the Gurkhas, Maori, all these parts of the Commonwealth that haven't been explored with their own very unique look to them.
I believe, and I might be wrong because I'm a bit out of the loop with it, but I believe one of the heroes for the British essentially is a Gurkha.
Right.
I'll have to double check that.
Yeah.
So.
Because that's the other thing. The Konflikt is going to be more focused on heroes and named heroes in a more pulp fiction kind of way, rather than just being the generic. Have you been given or tasked with any of those sort of designs, or is that's
one I won't be talking about today? So the heroes. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
The heroes are still being they're being briefed. They'll be cool,
because it's one thing to be doing standard infantry, where it's not generic but ubiquitous. Everybody's going to have them in the armies, and therefore they have to
stand out units.
Yeah, they have to look like they are a mass-produced, in most cases, uniform type. But then whenever you come to play with heroes, there is the possibility to do something a bit more extravagant. Have your pearl-handled Colts and multiple helmets like Patton did, or what have you. There's all of that. Is that something that you've done before? Individuals, I mean, rather than sort of the stock in trade of the forces.
The closest we've come to so far that I can talk about is probably the veteran platoon commanders that are going to go in the armies. So I think you've seen the Axis veteran platoon commander is a guy holding his Tridegger out forward.
Yes.
The American one has the sort of puffer jacket with the
flying jacket with a big furry collar to keep his ears warm.
Yeah. The British model is one of my favourites. It's not a dynamic model, but it's full of character. It's an officer stood ramrod, bolt upright, chin up, got his Tesla rifle to his side, his arm behind his back, really intricate detailing on his armor. Soviet guy there's a megaphone involved, obviously, and a big flag. And the Japanese one is has a bayoneted LMG, which is
that's how to win friends and influence people.
Commanders have had a bit more love put into them to make them stand out.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. I really like getting to see behind the curtain, so to speak, because people often look at not so much concept sketches, don't really see them out in the wild too often, but they'll see previews of miniatures and then not really think about the process that's gone into it and how to make something that fits within a genre like this and has that cohesive feel as well. And
something we're really keen to do here, and I know Pete's banging the drum with this, is to get more artwork out there.
Yeah.
More artwork and specifically painted models, not renders, not. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to be able to show renders off, but really we want to show painted miniatures so people see this is actually real.
Yeah.
It's not just light fancy. Painted miniatures and artwork, because again, it's something that, although there's artwork in the historical stuff, this is us. This is Warlord sort of forging a new path.
And I mean, that's one of the main things about this version of Konflikt 47. It's a rebirth of the game insofar as it's becoming its own thing. It's not, here's your bolt action army with a weird tank. It is, here's your Konflikt 47 army, and the design, the aesthetic, the units are all taking a step forward to become, you don't have to be playing World War II at all. You don't, if you're not interested in that period of military history.
I mean,
this is,
that being said, though, you
sci-fi game.
Could still, I mean, something I'm looking forward to doing, even though it won't go very well, is you can still field, bolt action against Konflikt. The pointing might be a bit weird. You have to. It's a bit strange.
There's a game coming on the channel later this week where people will see what happens when you put bolt action units in amongst Konflikt units. So they have a job to do.
There's a weird thing in, like, will a squad of conscripts armed with rocket launchers be able to take out a Stahl? Maybe. Is it worth it? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
But by the same logic, will a King Tiger with a giant tank be able to take out a Walker? Probably going to hurt it.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing with bolt action, yeah.
But then we were talking about this in the interview that went out on Monday, I think, with Peter and Dan. And if you think about the progression in World War II from 1939, where despite a lot of the propaganda films, most mechanized units were still horse-drawn or bike. And then 1945, where you have Pershings, King Tigers, that 5-year period in our real world, the technology ramped up so that if you were to put a 1945 platoon, battalion, division, whatever, against its equivalent, the change in technology is so massive they would just overwhelm. And likewise here, you've got that progression of technology, so it makes sense that while some poorer countries or conscripted troops or whatever may still be wielding older style tech, they will run into problems when they come up against the new shiny hotness that's been paid out there.
That's a good way to put it.
It's been an absolute delight talking with you, John. All the best for the foreseeable in Konflikt 47. I can't wait to see what's coming down the pipeline, especially the stuff that you refuse to tell me about, which is just terrible.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. I think you'll get to see it all in person on the open day, I believe.
So if you were lucky enough to make the open day this weekend past, if not, I would suggest you leave this video now and you start trolling the internet, because I'm sure people have taken pictures of plenty, and there'll be some out and about on the Warlord Games websites and socials too. Right, that's enough of this, folks. Stay tuned for more coming throughout the rest of the week for Konflikt 47. John, thank you very much.
It's Konflikt 47 week, and we have 3 amazing starter sets to be won. We will choose 3 winners, 1 from the comments on our YouTube videos, 1 from the comments on OnTableTop.com, and 1 from our Cult of Games members, so you guys get an extra chance to win.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now, and while you're at it, why not hit subscribe, and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it, go on.